It's a, One, wait for recording.
Recording in progress.
All right, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 10th, 2022 East Ascension Drainage Meeting. First, I'd like to remind everyone of a public comment period. For public comment, you will call into the parish hotline. That number is 225-621-8636. And you're going to enter participation code 939496. Again, that number is 225-621-8636, and you will enter participant code 939496. All right, with that being said, we'll move to item number 1, call to order, roll call commissioners. Let's see, Ms. Secretary, if I'm seeing it correctly, Mr. Ogeron and Mr. Lambert are absent.
Yeah, that's the two I have absent.
Okay, thank you. And everyone, Miss Leslie is joining us tonight. Miss Liz is a little under the weather, so Miss Daigle is going to be driving our meeting for us tonight. All right, we will move on to item number 2, or invocation pledge of allegiance. I ask Mr. Cagnolati if he would please lead us.
Thank you so much. Please bow your heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, please hear our prayer for the men, women, and children of Ascension Parish. We pray for our parish council and their families. We pray for our parish president, the administration, all parish employees and their families. Father, we ask you to relieve us from this COVID-19 pandemic, and that you bless us and guide us in all our actions, and may your Holy Spirit be with us at all times. For we place our lives in your hands, always and forever, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Cagnolati.
You're
all right,
welcome.
so first things first, before we read the agenda, we do have an item that we need to add to that takes a unanimous vote of the commission. We're going to vote to add this to the agenda before Ms. Daigle reads it for us. The item that we would like to add, it would be item 7C, and it is a resolution authorizing the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District number 1 to proceed with a not to exceed $3,590,000 financing through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facility and Community Development Authority, authorizing the request to issue and revenue refunding bonding. And this was the item that we voted on as the full council this past Thursday. It just with COVID and everything, it just fell through the cracks to make it to our agenda tonight. So I
move that we add the item.
Okay. I got a second, a motion by Mr. Lawler, a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Is there any opposition? Okay, hearing none, that motion passes. We will add that to item 7C. And at this point right here, I will ask Ms. Leslie to read the agenda for us.
Okay. Request addition of resolution authorizing the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District number 1 to proceed with a not to exceed $3,590,000 financing through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facility and Community Development Authority, authorizing the request to issue its revenue refunding bonds.
All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there anything on the...
She's not done, Jake. She's got to move forward, read the agenda.
No.
She's coming.
Acceptance of the minutes.
Oh, okay. Acceptance of the minutes.
Chairman's report announcements, drainage report, general business. Approval of phase 1 and 2 for Shadows of Manchac retention pond repair. Approval of proposal from Hartman Engineering for East Ascension Drainage Consulting Services in amount not to exceed $75,000. And then that's it. That's it.
Okay, at this time, we are going to take a vote. First off, is there anything anybody wants to pull from the agenda for a separate vote? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the full agenda. We need a 2/3 vote to approve the agenda as is.
I'll make
With
a motion.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Lawler. Is there any opposition to accepting the agenda as is with the item of 7C? Okay, hearing none, that motion passes. And now we will go into our 15-minute public comment period.
Chairman Melanson, I have time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. With that being said, I'm sorry, were there any calls?
Yes, I have a call and an email.
Okay. Okay, please go ahead.
All right, I have Mr. John Nicoporo that wants to speak on item 7A.
Okay. Mr. John, can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead. How y'all doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good.
Please go ahead.
I have a problem with this, the parish doing any type of work on any retention pond in the parish, especially this pond here. This neighborhood in particular, they spent their money that they collect dues for fighting another homeowner in their neighborhood over an issue that they had with a building he wanted to put up, and then just like any other homeowner. So they needed to save their money, and they didn't tell nobody, none of the other homeowners that they did this. So they spent a year's worth of time and lawyer fees to fight this other gentleman and wasted their money on this. So if we do every HOA this way, then we should be taking care of every pond in the neighborhood. The parish should be broke. So if we do that, we need to start looking at HOA's financials and see what they're spending their money on. Make sure they just not wasting money, and then having the parish come in and want to take over their problems that they have in the neighborhood.
Okay. Is that it, Mr. Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yes. Yep. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, on item 7A, Misty Entremont and I am the spokesperson for our neighborhood, the Shadows at Manchac. We would like to thank the Drainage Council and the Parish Administration for listening and hearing our concerns. We understand this has been a difficult position to take, and we thank you for your consideration and listening to our unique situation. We are excited to find a solution to the flooding concerns in our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Leslie. And that was everything for public comment, all the emails and calls?
You have been
Yes,
dropped
that was
from the
it.
conference.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, now we will move on to item number 5, Chairman's Reports Announcement. We have none tonight. Like I said, Chairman Lambert, unfortunately, is working an awful lot right now, so he was unable to join us tonight.
Chairman Melanson, we have
Yes?
an item 4 for acceptance of the minutes that I think you skipped over.
Oh, I apologize. Yep, you're right. I'm sorry. Okay, item 4.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Mason, a second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any opposition? Any discussion? Hearing none, that motion passes. I'm sorry. Now I will move on to item number 5, which Chairman's Report. We have none tonight. Item 5A, election of chairman. So we do not need a second on a nomination. So we would take nominations now for chairman of East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District number 1.
I nominate Chase.
Chase Melanson. We both got it. There, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Ms. Casso and Mr. Lawler have nominated myself. Are there any other nominations? No? Hearing none? Okay, well, I don't think we have to do a roll call, correct, Ms. Secretary? Being there's only one nomination?
No, we do not. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank y'all very much. I truly appreciate that a lot. This position means a lot to me, and I'm very excited about this. There's a lot of things that I want to see us get accomplished together. And we, in 2021, we started a lot of really good things, specifically with our floodplain management plan with HNTV. And I can tell you, sitting in meetings for the monthly meetings with them for the last year, this is going to be a a path altering, move that we've done. We're going to be a data driven, drainage commission here with all the information we need to make proper decisions. So I'm really excited about that. And I truly appreciate the honor. So thank everybody for that. Moving on to item 5B, we will now take nominations for Vice Chair of East Ascension Drainage Commission.
I'll nominate Aaron Lawler as our Vice Chairman, please.
Second.
Okay. We have a second. Okay. Are there any other nominations for Vice Chair? Okay. Hearing none. Congrats there, Mr. Lawler.
Thank you very much. Thank everybody for putting a little bit of faith in me, and I really look forward to working with Chase and the administration to really improve drainage around the parish. Thank y'all.
Awesome. Good deal. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate that. All right. So now moving on to item 6A on our drainage report. We're going to do the November and December drainage report. That's going to be Mr. Jade Robin is going to give that to us. If you would, Mr. Jade.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Congratulations to you and Aaron on your nominations. We appreciate y'all serving. I'd like to also thank Mr. Dempsey Lambert for his time on this board also. We appreciate you, Mr. Lambert. Today, I bring you the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity District monthly report for November and December of 2021. Next slide, please. Our parish crews this is a combined report, just for info. Our parish crews between November and December removed 140 trees through our waterways from Hurricane Ida. Next slide. Our next slides are going to be examples of the work that was done in these past 2 months. You see here in the Bayou Goudin, you can see our new aquagator at work. A very good piece of equipment, has done a lot of good service for us. It's a great buy for the community. Next slide, please. Panama Canal. Next slide. Little work in Bayou Francois, clearing under bridgeways. Next slide. Heath Bayou. Next slide. Some more New River Canal work. A lot of work in New River Canal. Next slide, please. The next 3 slides is going to be Ball Bayou tree obstruction removal. This is an area that we shredded last year to gain maintenance access. Through doing that project, it's allowed for good access and gave us the opportunity to clean this up very quickly. Next slide, please. There again, this is another area on Ball Bayou. Next slide. And our third shot, this is a different area. Next slide, please. We have Herman Gentry Bridge. We removed a aluminum rooftop from obstructing that bridge. Next slide. This is 936 at New River, bridge cleanup, debris removal. Next slide. And some more Heath Bayou with that aquagator work. You see how valuable this tool is, guys. This thing does a great job in these waterways of cleaning up. Next slide, please. And our own and off-road drainage projects. This is Fontenot Road. Next slide, please. Silverstone Avenue, Greystone Avenue. Next slide, please. Fields Court. Next, please. This is working on Fields Court. Next, please. Virtuous Road in Santa Monica. Next slide, please. George Lambert Road. Next slide, please. And culvert projects, Jim Maris, Clinton Smiley Road. Next slide, please. Adam Lane, culvert project. Dolphy Road, culvert project. Brittany Road, another culvert project. Leon Road. And I want to mention some of these are driveway requests. Jim Mayer Road was drainage improvement. The rest were driveway requests where the landowner provides supplies for this and we supply the labor. Next slide, please. So November through December, parish-wide tree removal, as said, 140 trees, off-road ditches, 13, roadside ditches, we serviced 35, installed 12 culverts, repaired 6 sinkholes, and our new culvert cleanup crew, where they actually go in and clean the ends of the culverts and they blow through them. We did 7 full subdivisions from start to finish. We also did 13 streets. And when we do a street, we do that from start to finish, the entire line of culverts. So that is a service that President Whitmore added over the last several months. That's very valuable. We've seen it work very good, especially going in these subdivisions and going full lines. But this concludes my report, and I'm going to turn it over to Ron Savoy, DPW Director, and he's going to continue with the capital projects.
Thank you, guys. First and foremost, congratulations to Chase and Aaron here, and also echo the thanks Dempsey for his service. Very excited. Good vibe here, and I think we're going to do big things. So very excited for that. Moving into a few of the capital projects updates. The Laurel Ridge Levee extensions is in the right-of-way phase. Talked to Kimberly Cole at McKim Creed, and that is progressing, and they're moving forward with actually purchasing of the properties and tracks. So some of them are in appraisal phase, and some of them are actually moving into procurement of bringing those properties to PLD. So that project is moving forward in there with that phase. Moving on to Fish Bayou. Currently, the road has been excavated out, and they've hit grade to the depths of where they need to be to start building and placing in the foundation. As Ruth had said earlier, there will be a ribbon cutting on that project Wednesday at 1 p.m. And it's moving along well. The first big obstacle was wondering if we were going to hit any obstructions when we excavated, and that all went well. So right now we've been having good weather. Project is progressing very well. It's anticipated substantial completion around May of 2022, and into June as the final closeout. So that's the progression of it projected out. So far, they're on course to do that. Rhonda Place, McKim Creed was tasked with Rhonda Place overview. That's underway. They had to do some survey work in the field. That's taking place. Once those deliverables are delivered to McKim Creed, they will start engineering the scope of the project. This is anticipated to take another 4 weeks once they receive survey data. So hopefully around the February meeting, we'll have more updates on that. We have a meeting with Pontchartrain Levee District next week to discuss Bayou Manchac regional flood risk reductions. That will be a very good productive meeting of forecasting what's going to go on in Bayou Manchac as far as capital projects. Also, in addition to these projects, we've been working very, very well with the contractors with Hurricane Ida and the waterway debris removal around the parish. I don't want to go too far into this because All South is our consultant. And as this was done under the emergency fund, they will be going to your next council meeting and giving you a very thorough report on that. But I do have some quick numbers for you. So far, since that project's happened, they've removed 9,100 cubic yards of vegetation debris from Bayou Manchac, 7,500 cubic yards from Bayou Conway, 5,600 cubic yards from Panama Canal. They just mobilized this week on New River Canal on the bottom end near Marvin Bro, and they're roughly 1,000 cubic yards removed from that channel. So those are the 4 main channels that those contractors have mobilized in and are underway with work, and that's going very well. New River, I spoke with Davis Cole earlier this afternoon. The gate valves, as you see in the media post a week or so ago, were drawn down, and that was in preparation for the contractor to start scoping out his extension of culverts and ditches that come from the streets to New River, and also start letting the sides of the channel firm up and give them a way to dry some of that material out. I talked to the contractor this afternoon, and we have a meeting later in the week on site. And with that, we are going to push them to get their schedule out. And so in the February drainage meeting, we should have a timeline and a projected schedule on those projects as well. And that pretty much concludes where we are on capital projects. And that's about it, Chairman.
Tim Barth, Mr. Ryan, Mr. J, thank y'all for that. Do we have any questions on Fish Fall Bayou, New River, anything going on with the island, Hurricane Island cleanup? Look, I can't tell you, I took myself a ride to the Fish Fall Bayou job site a few days ago, and it's something to see. It's very, very cool, man. They have it going on there, and it's gonna be a great project. And of course, we have a lot of other big projects in mind for that area specifically, but it's really cool. So if y'all get some time, go take a ride out there. It's something to see right now. Yes, Ms. Casso.
Hi, thanks, Chase. I did have the opportunity as well to go out about 10 days ago, and I was very impressed with the work that was going on. It was fascinating. So while I'm not encouraging the public to all go make a trip back there right now because it's crowded back there, I would love to see us. We'll have the media out on Thursday, and maybe we'll get some great pictures and be able to, at our next drainage meeting, be able to kind of show folks who are curious what that area is looking like back there. It certainly looked very different than I had in my head that it was going to look at this stage of the game. So it was an interesting trip, and I thank the administration and Kimberly with McKim Cree for getting me back there, and look forward to the groundbreaking on Thursday.
Awesome. Well, and there's one other thing I want to say. I selfishly kind of got caught up in my own excitement over my new chairmanship, but I also do want to recognize former Chairman Lambert. He's held this position for 7 years, and I can tell you that, in my opinion, strictly my opinion, this commission is the most daunting and exhausting, responsibility that I have as a councilman. It's very important. I tell people all the time that traffic and traffic is tough. Traffic is an inconvenience, but flooding and losing your home, I mean, that's a life-altering, that's life-altering events that happen. And Mr. Dempsey's done a hell of a job for 7 years, man. For the last 2 years, he's mentored me. So I'm very appreciative of him and personally want to thank him in front of everybody. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Robert.
Did you get him a trophy? Because I'm just saying, not the guy, Terry, and tries the trophy.
I did not get him a trophy. I should get him a trophy, though. That's good point there, Mr. Robert. Okay, if nobody has any other questions for Mr. Ryan and Mr. J, we will move on to item 6B. We have Mr. John Manzan from HNTB is going to give us our monthly floodplain management plan update.
All right, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, good deal. Hopefully, if everything works well, you should be able to see my screen, which I'm sharing right now.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. All right. So sorry I missed the steering committee meeting this past week. I was dealing with COVID, but I'm on the mend now, so back at work. I'll go ahead and get started. We're still on track to deliver in an 18-month schedule. I'll cover some of the tasks that we're working on right now. The 18-month schedule, as you see, we're in the early January timeframe. Everything that you see there is on schedule. We just submitted the 30% submittal of the floodplain management plan. We discussed it over with the steering committee, so steering committee members have that. If anyone else wants to see it on this board, give me a holler. I'll make sure that you get a copy. Data collection and acquisition, it's pretty much complete. What you see here in that slide is the
Data collection performed by CSRS, 100% at Manchac, Henderson, almost done at Marvinboro, and about 97% on Bayou Conway. The next map here, this is the LWI effort being performed by Dewberry. The surveying firm doing that survey pickup is Fort and Tablata. We don't have percentages complete there, but they did give us a map, which CSRS digitized for us. They have the green dots for percent complete areas, and the red dots are incomplete. Our goal is to get the F&T effort along with the CSRS to just have one parish map, and you can see where all these dots are. Modeling status, Bayou Manchac's about 99% done, Henderson Bayou 65%, Marvinboro 65%, and Bayou Conway, Panama Canal about 50% complete. The hazard assessment, we've identified problem areas. We looked at the historical risk assessment, and that's been completed. We're currently reviewing existing data to determine areas of concern, areas such as repetitive loss, reported flooded homes, reported drainage concerns, looking at a structured database versus synthetic HEC-RAS models, inundation reports, and a FEMA 100-year inundation. Going over 4 bases to identify areas of concern. The 4 bases that we're looking at, Bayou Manchac, as you see here, the yellow boxes delineate areas that we have identified within Welsh Gully, Muddy Creek, Cotton Bayou, and the Bluff Swamp overbanks. We're considering other planned improvements as well, such as Move Ascension and some current drainage projects that Ascension Parish is undertaking. The reports that we are looking at, many of these areas have had repetitive loss claims, reports of flooded structures and or drainage maintenance requests. We're going to look at using structured database and modeling results to come. So this is just for the Manchac Basin. Same map, but this is for Marvinboro. The yellow boxes, again, delineate areas that we've identified. Some of the problem areas, we're finding out are due to major constrictions in flow. Maybe we have to remove the constriction or improve it. Maybe do some channel capacity drops in some areas. That's also a problem. And in some areas, the roads have higher elevations than the surrounding areas. So some of the things that we're picking up here, this is for Marvinboro. Some of the possible solutions that we're looking at is creating preservation areas, detention ponds, crossing improvements for sure, channel widening and increasing the capacity, possibly using pumps and levees in certain areas, and channel stabilization to improve flow improvements. Channel stabilization, as you see on the lower right-hand side, would include putting concrete lined channels in areas where you have stability issues. The 30% floodplain management plan, as I mentioned earlier, was submitted last week. There's appendices A through J. Lots of good information there, but again, it's for review right now. We hope to get some feedback and move it along. And that concludes my report. I'll take any questions if you have any.
I have a question, but I need to get the presentation.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ms. Casso. Is there something else? Is there a slide in the presentation you'd like to see, or is it okay if you pull it down?
No, that's okay. I don't need the slides. My question, John, is there's a lot of concern across the state about the rising sea level, particularly in Lake Pontchartrain and the Lake Maurepas, that has a tremendous impact on the lower Amite and moves up through the whole coastal zone. So I want to be very sure that as we move forward, we are taking into consideration when we start talking about a 30-year plan and a 50-year plan, that you all are taking into consideration projected sea level rise, and so that we don't do a project in 50 years from now, somebody calls us up and says, well, why didn't y'all think about the fact that Lake Maurepas was going up and Lake Pontchartrain was going up and Gulf of Mexico was going up?
So yeah, Terry, thanks for asking. Our scope includes taking sea level rise into consideration. especially so this is Ascension Parish falls into the Amite sub-basin because Manchac drains towards the Amite. And so, yes, sea level rise is part of our equations when we take these models into account.
Okay, could you please develop a slide or presentation around that and show me where that's being taken into consideration? At what stage of your planning you look at that?
Oh, we're looking at it now. So I don't know what that number is for this particular project, but I did work on a previous project for the hurricane protection system in New Orleans. And what the Corps of Engineers did for that is they came up with a number. I think it was a little bit over a foot, and then they added another foot to that just for like a factor of safety. So most of the elevations of the levees and flood walls in the greater New Orleans area have a required elevation plus 2 feet to take sea level rise into consideration, among other things. So I don't have that concrete number for this year, but it is something that we are taking into consideration.
Thank you very much. I'd really like to see you do some presentation, John, that would help to educate the public about what we know about that now and what we project for the future.
Will do. I'm putting the notes down right here. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the neighborhood of 2 feet as well, because as you mentioned earlier, Lake Pontchartrain and vicinity, all those projects that were built in the greater New Orleans took Lake Pontchartrain and vicinity into consideration. And when with the Manchac and Amite all draining into Lake Pontchartrain, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in that same ballpark.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. I know Mr. Could see that the parish president was wanting to comment. I've asked my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to point out, so currently we have 18 participants, and as y'all know, I can only see 12 screens at a time. So please, if I don't see you waving at the screen or anything, please speak up. Yeah, Parish President, you had a comment?
Yeah, so, I've been talking to several of the engineers, including EBR, Livingston, St. James, and the surrounding parishes about the sea rise. We have 3 or 4 projects that will be modeled. We'll put that into our model that HNTB will turn over to us. And those projects are Lower Ridge Levee Extension, Lower Ridge Levee Improvements, the Sorrento Surge Protection that will protect the southern part of our parish, as well as the Highway 74 and New River Pumping Station, removing that water from Lake Maurepas completely. And so several projects, all will be modeled and all will be presented through a model to show you that 2-foot rise in expectation. And we hope to get in February, every consultant or engineer working on every major project to come and present, state where they are, and hopefully we can ask all those questions. But yes, it is definitely being looked at and definitely be put into the model, and we'll run those scenarios.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much.
Good. And I'll just make a quick comment that I also want to reiterate the potential. I know there's a lot of work that Mr. Manza and them have left to do to justify it, but the potential of getting New River and that Spanish Lake Basin to the Mississippi and not the Amite is so important. That benefits us, EBR, Iberville, and even our neighbors to the east, Livingston Parish. Every drop that we can get out of the Amite and get into the Mississippi is better for everyone around. So, good questions. I'm scanning my screen. Does anybody else have any questions, comments for Mr. Manzan? Okay. Good. Thank you very much, Mr. John.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right. So we're going to move on to item 7A. Approval of phase 1 and 2 for Shadows of Manchac retention pond repair. We do have Mr. Jared Monso from Hartman, and so I'm gonna let Mr. Jared just kind of briefly go over it. He'll go over the details with us, and then we'll entertain a motion to where we can open up discussion. All right, Mr. Monso, it's all yours.
Okay. Appreciate it. Good evening, board. Congratulations, Jason, Aaron. So from the last meeting, we went back and updated cost estimates and did a phasing plan to help alleviate some of the, flooding issues. And what's in green is what I would consider phase one, and that's subsurface improvements. And phase two, in pink, would be the pond improvements. Now, I went back and updated some unit prices because the way we do our cost estimates, we use historical data. Well, with the fluctuating prices, it's kind of hard to get a handle, but with the New River dredging project, I basically used that unit price, and it did increase the cost, significantly. So if we would go to get back to phase two, so what the intention is for phase two is to basically bring back the pond to existing conditions and construct a center channel within that drainage servitude to get that water moving. Like was stated previously, the pond has silted up. There's several cross drains that are silted up. So part of this phase two would bring it back to existing conditions and create a center channel. If we would do a wet pond scenario, a complete wet pond, the costs are just, they're out of hand. It's well over $1 million just to do a wet pond. So I kind of put that off the table and decided, look, this is the next best thing for phase two. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That's my approach. If y'all want to swap the phases, we can, but my recommendation would be to at least do the phase one first, the subsurface, and get that water out of the road as quick as possible.
Okay, let's see. Before we start asking Mr. Amaso some questions, can I get a motion to where we can open the floor for discussion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the phases, phase one and phase two.
Okay, so we do have a motion, and I'm only asking this because of the circumstances with the virtual. Listen, we all know this is a very complicated issue. It's a big issue. What I would really like to do is everyone ask their questions, get their comments before we start making or substitutes or amendments, if that would be okay by the body. It's really tough to keep up with 18 screens at one time. So I will open the floor to Mr. Lawler.
Yes. Thank you very much. I made the motion. I've spoken with the homeowners in this area. I've spoken with Mr. Monso, who has assured me that phase one will solve the immediate problem. And the immediate problem is that there are, on a normal rainfall, we're not talking about back in June when we had 12 inches, but on your average rainfall, they get flooding in the streets, which literally blocks the entrance and exit to the subdivision where nobody can get in or out. It creates a safety problem. It creates a work problem for people that have to get to work, or if you have to get your kids from school buses included. So that to me is the paramount problem here. First of all, I really do understand that there are concerns that, hey, this could open up a floodgate that would take care of ponds. Phase one eliminates that concern. And the reason I say that is phase one is talking about drainage pipes that we handle. We handle drainage. We're going to have to go in and get some right away from them, but we need to improve this drainage to improve that, and it won't be affecting the pond portion of it. Phase two is a different story. It would be going into a pond and doing work on it. I believe that this is, in my opinion, I think this is a step one in what we can do for the future. One of the things that I envision is that we don't just do this for this neighborhood. We've got neighborhoods all throughout Ascension Parish that are established that have drainage problems. What I would like to see is that this is just a first step in a decade-long, maybe decade and a half or 2 decade-long program where we go into established neighborhoods and we start fixing what's gone wrong in those neighborhoods, whether it's through neglect or simply just time. We need to go and help these neighborhoods. What are we doing for the future? We're already looking at, and that's part of what's going on right now with Kendick Keys, is we're looking at how new subdivisions don't have these problems, that we're going to have better enforcement and we're going to have better analysis of drainage before the subdivisions are built. In this situation, and with many of our established situations, we're past that. This subdivision was built, I believe, in around 2010, well before most of our times on here. We all have neighborhoods like this that we need to go in and fix. I think this is a very important step that we start doing this. I know I made the motion for both phases, but what I'd really like to see us do is let's go in, do phase 1. And I've spoken with Mr. Monso once again about this. That's going to fix the ultimate problem. We can see what effect that has, and maybe that could also help some of the pond issues by increasing water flow and getting it out of there into Cotton Bayou and moving it out of there. And in 2 or 3 years, we come back and we look at this. And also during the next year or two, we look at turning this type of project into a program that we identify neighborhoods throughout the parish that are established, that we can go in, that we can look at. And we've seen some of that already in Jade's great presentation. We saw that they talked about going in and doing entire streets and entire subdivisions of cleaning out culverts. That's the type of work that this East Ascension Drainage Commission can do. And this is one step towards that. So I'd like to allay the fears that we're going to go in and do a pond. We can do phase 1 only to allay those fears, and a couple years down the road, come back and look at the second phase. Well, right now I know it's a motion for both, and I'll leave it at that for the time being. But that's what I think is important in this situation. And that first phase, by the way, the cost is, so we all have it. I don't know if y'all can read it because it's very small on my screen. I wrote it down, $501,627. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lawler. Let's see. So I had Mr. Mason, and then Mr. Robert will be after Mr. Mason. All right, Michael.
Also, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm glad Aaron kind of pitched the way he did. He and I actually had a conversation recently about this because I had a ton of questions, and I still have a few. I'm not sure what Mr. Nicoporo said. You know, I would love for us to kind of maybe try to figure a little bit of that, of what his accusations against the homeowner association. I would like us to look into that a little bit. I don't know how we can. I don't know if there's even any legal precedent that we can look into that, but I would like to know that. That's just something from my personal knowledge, looking at this whole situation. Another thing that I'm looking into is, they said there's flooding issues, and Aaron, you kind of spoke and you said that there's the flooding is in the front of the subdivision. So my question is, have any houses actually taken on water because of this, or is it just the streets being blocked up? Just turn off your camera.
Yeah, I hit the wrong.
You're like, I gotta hide.
No, it's my understanding that no houses have flooded.
Okay.
As of yet. The flooding is getting worse, and it also affects McCrory 2 and McCrory 1 around this neighborhood. And I believe one of those houses have flooded, but this is also a safety issue with getting out. There are about 150 houses in the subdivision. When the water comes up, you can't get in and you can't get out.
I agree. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't affect what I'm saying. I just was curious about it.
No, I understand. Good question.
I kind of agree with Councilman Lawler, or Chair. Commissioner Lawler. We're commissioners right now. I kind of agree with Commissioner Lawler that something needs to be done, and I will hesitantly support the first phase. And like Aaron said, I am really concerned about this opening a Pandora's box for every single established subdivision in the parish coming to us and having us fix everything. I personally would like to see maybe the homeowner association, maybe even the developer have some skin in this game, because if you guys recall, whenever we're replacing culverts, you know, we have the residents, you know, that come in and pay for the culverts. We'll do the work if they pay for the culverts. So that's kind of my thought process behind it is, you know, if we're gonna come in and fix all these retention ponds, I do think that the subdivisions whose job it is to maintain these retention areas and keep these areas up, I think they should have a little skin in the game. I'm not asking them to put up half or anything crazy like that. I'll open that up to the board to see what kind of they think is fair. But I do think that, if we're going to be saving all these subdivisions, that it should not be 100% parish cost, just because we're working with a limited budget. I mean, I know it's a big budget for drainage, but we also have big projects that we want to do. And if we're having to spend $500,000 to $1 million on all of these projects coming up, I am worried that we're not going to be able to get these larger projects taken care of. So that's my biggest concern, is the financial aspect of it, I guess, is to wrap it up in a pretty bow. And going forward, the more developments that we have around us, the more problems like this we're going to have. So we do need to kind of start. That's what I'm excited about the Kendon Keys thing coming out, is so that we can start holding, these developments a little bit more responsible about what they're doing with the water once it leaves these subdivisions. So that's kind of my thing. Like I said, I will hesitantly support Aaron in phase 1, but I would like us to potentially start to look into having some of these subdivisions and some of these developers that are responsible for these subdivisions put some skin in the game as well. Thank you, Chase.
All right, Mr. Mason. Mr. Robert.
Okay, this situation, when it was first brought up months ago, I was completely against. After the last meeting we had in public, I had spoken a little bit on it, and there you are. And we had spoken a little bit, and you kind of touched on this as far as each of our districts have one of these subdivisions or one of these developments that meet these special criteria that we all want to help. Okay. I have one in particular, Aaron, you have one. I know everybody else does. There's a couple options that I'd like to put out on the table, just to put them out there, let everybody kind of think about them and talk and see if we could put something in here, somewhat reflecting this. I would 100% support this, Aaron, if we could do it in one of two ways. Either we can do 2 phases. We can say in the budgeted year of this year and the budgeted year of next year, we can each of our districts have allotted $500,000. It's up to the council, and also it has to go through the different boards, commissioners, make sure it's all meets all the requirements. Obviously, it has to be above par or at par, above board. And we can each pick our project, present it to the board, and if it's something reasonable and that will really have a good cost effect or cost benefit, we can each do that. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's not that crazy. We've got a huge budget in drainage. We all know that. I know we have a lot of work, but we only have 10 districts here. Preferably, I would prefer to say, look, let's just each take $1 million for our district. We can vet this, we can put this through, we can make sure everybody agrees with the engineering of it, all of it, instead of breaking up in 2. And I believe $1 million covers your whole deal, right, Aaron? Okay. Okay. So, and I know this is kind of out in left field. I get that, but this is a way that I can justify to anyone coming to me, any of my constituents, that, hey, it's a kind of special situation, but we're not setting a precedent because, at least this is limiting it to each one of our councilmen get to choose a project to put before the board to pass. So I'm going to kind of leave that open and move on and let y'all move on to whoever else is next.
Let's see. All right, I believe Mr. Wagasbeck, and then we'll move to Mr. Cagnolati. And I think maybe the parish president after that. I think I've seen a hand raised. So yeah, Mr. Wagasbeck.
All right, thank you, Chase. So I agree with a lot of what Michael and Joel said. I guess, I like what Michael said. I would like to see more of maybe some things investigated about what Mr. Nicoporo called in about. I think that would be worth looking into. I like the part where maybe they share part of this cost, moving forward. I do have some additional questions on, what is the legal precedent? And I know, Chase, you and I talked about it earlier. If it is indeed private property and we go do a project on it, what is our responsibility moving forward? I'd like to see maybe some comments about that as we look at doing a project where we're doing work that's not on our right-of-way, private property, HOA owned. what does that mean for us in the future? And, you know, if this should not work and we still have a problem, what is our legal obligation on that moving forward? So that's a question I would have. You know, I was going to ask about, Aaron asked it, or maybe Michael asked it about how many houses flood. I don't know if I want to pursue that, but, you know, I would like to see, I agree with Joel on, we all have certain issues in our districts. You know, I'd like to see us maybe have a budget discussion about this, you know, because at the end of the day, we're spending money out of the drainage board. You know, do we need to decide how much of an allotment of money we're going to put towards these type issues and not just pick one, you know, for what, and not that I don't want to see this subdivision get their problem fixed. I do. But, you know, if we're going to set a precedent, why not put a little bit of more thought towards what the budget looks like, and then decide, you know, how many of these are we going to do a year? So, you know, I would probably like to see us defer it to get some of these questions answered before we make this decision. But that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weisbeck. Mr. Cagnolati.
Thank you, Chase. I agree with a lot of what Dal said, what Michael said, and Joel. I think if I'm not opposed, if we can assure ourselves going forward that this is a drainage issue, you know, we're going to improve drainage, and that we can spend drainage money to do such. But I think if we go forward with a program, as Aaron suggested, we have some language in there that's going to help us prioritize and basically justify why we're doing it, and then what the result's going to be, how it's going to help. And then again, as Joel mentioned, can these neighborhood homeowners associations, can they assist at all? And I think that if we put some language in this program going forward, that we're going to evaluate each and every situation, every project, case by case, each subdivision, case by case, or area, then it makes sense to go forward and do it. And if it's a drainage issue, we're going to improve drainage, minimize the potential for someone flooding. You know, I don't see a problem with it. And since Aaron mentioned it, you volunteered, Aaron, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a substitute motion that we approve phase 1 and step back and take a look at the remainder of the project from there. I'm hoping to get a second.
Can you repeat your motion for me, please, Mr. Cagnolati?
Yeah, my motion is that we approve phase 1 of the proposed project, phase 1 and 2. And like Aaron said, wait a year or two and then look and see what the result of that. And if it improved it enough, we may not have to address the pond and as greatly as we proposed. In other words, right, Aaron?
Yes, I second that.
Just for clarification, is that the same motion that you made, Mr. Lawler, to approve phase 1 and 2?
No, I made a motion to approve phase 1 and 2. Councilman Cagnolati or Commissioner Cagnolati is making a motion to approve only phase 1, and I'm seconding that.
Okay, so we have our first amended motion to approve phase 1. Okay. I'm writing down some notes here. Let me see. Mr. Parish President, comment?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we don't have to look far back to Wallace Acres. Another example of a subdivision we spent, I think close to $1 million, if not over. The difficulty with the cost share, obviously, is Wallace Acres doesn't have an HOA. And so do you punish the HOAs that are in existence? And it's a very difficult question when they pay the same tax as the subdivisions who don't have HOAs. I do agree that there is a subdivision in every district that needs attention. I love the idea with setting something in the budget on an annual basis and then having a third party come in and determine based on need, just like we do roads. And we fix the ones that need to be fixed, and we have that third party do that. So it takes the politics out of it a little bit. So yeah, I love where the direction's going, and I would love to see, because there is countless subdivisions that we are going to need to start addressing. A lot of these subdivisions, when approved, we're going to 10-year drainage plan, a 25-year drainage plan, and just simply don't hold up anymore. So we're going to start having to look at this problem if we're going to reduce flooding and flooding of structures. So big supporter of the conversation going on. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parish President. I do not see, Mr. Lawler, I still see your digital hand raised. Did you have another comment?
Yes, sir, if I may.
Okay,
And I wasn't going to address that, but I've heard a little bit of talk based on the phone call that was received. First of all, I don't see how we can penalize a subdivision or a homeowner association for enforcing its rules. And that's apparently what happened in that subdivision. I don't even know if it's all accurate. I've been told it's not accurate, but I don't know. But, I know with my subdivision, if a homeowner comes in and builds something that is against the rules of the subdivision, the subdivision has to act. The HOA has to act. And if based on a phone call that's unsubstantiated, that there's been given no proof that this has been on the agenda for months, and it's the first time we're hearing about it, that we're going to penalize a subdivision because they enforce their rules, the message we're sending to HOAs is that you can't enforce your rules. If you do, the parish is going to penalize you for it. There was no proof given for that phone call. We've seen no evidence of that. I don't see how we can use that as a standard to go penalize a subdivision for enforcing their rules. There's nothing wrong with enforcing rules. People don't have to agree with them, but when you buy in an HOA, there are rules. And I'd hate to see that as a justification not to help the subdivision. That's all I have to add.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawler. Are there any other questions for Mr. Monso or any other comments? Yeah, Mr. Mason, go ahead.
I want to clarify real quick. I wasn't trying to punish the subdivision based on that. I just wanted to know if there was any substantiation to that claim. That's all I was asking for. I just want to make sure that's crystal clear. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Let's see. With that being said, I'll make the comment on my personal opinion of the matter. Is look, I absolutely would love to, knock out phase 1 and 2 and spend the money, for this neighborhood. I understand on very ordinary rains, it's hard for moms and dads with the kids to get in and out of the neighborhood, even school buses sometimes. So phase 2, in my opinion, the way I look at it, phase 2 is our responsibility. We have the 30-foot servitude that was granted to Ascension Parish when this neighborhood was approved. We are on our property. We are making an improvement to go in there, dig out, and kind of rechannelize this dry pond, if you will, and it has the double weir system in there. I do support spending the four. I forget the exact dollar amount. I'm sorry. Let me scroll down here real quick. The $452,000. That is on parish property. That is improving something that our predecessors that we took responsibility for, and that's my opinion on it. The phase 1, the underground piping that is not parish property. We don't have servitude right away or any responsibility for. That's the part that I struggle with. And look, and Mr. Monso is the expert for sure. But I also feel like fixing the upstream issue and maybe not the downstream issue of the pond may kind of come back to bite us in the backside as well. My preference would be to approve phase 2, improve the dry retention pond, and then let's reassess the situation. Maybe this it improves once this pond in the double weir system is working as is. So that's my comments and my feelings on it. Yeah, Mr. Lawler, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have a question for clarity for maybe Ron and Jade. It's my understanding that in most subdivisions, the drainage is turned over to the parish, and it's the parish's responsibility, even underground drainage. Is that correct?
There is some drainage servitude in the subsurface areas. I think there's one, the piece that we're doing, the dog leg, I think that has to go through the common area. I'm not too sure if that's considered drainage servitude. So we'd have to get some type of agreements right there. But, in my opinion, this is a localized issue in the front of the property. So it's a matter of getting that water out. I think the retention pond, is serving its purpose, even though it is silted up. I think doing the improvements up front, that's just my opinion. I think that's going to be the bigger benefit at this time.
Yeah, Aaron and Ron here, just to kind of chime in on your overall question. I think what you were asking is the drainage servitudes where piping exists outside of a pond, is that normally something that the drainage district would maintain? And the answer is yes. So I think through Jared's findings on his investigation, there is some problems with the hydraulic sizing of the pipe at that phase 1 site. And there may be some suggestions. I think he's got a little more work to do on scoping this and putting a bid package together. But through that, there may be a need to add a pipe or something of that nature that may require an additional servitude for a new route of a new pipe. So that may be where the HOA may have to come to the table a little bit there and dedicate more servitude. But in general, yes, we do need to move forward with repairing the pipe.
I would certainly say that I would not be in support of us having to buy more servitude, that the HOA would have to donate that to us.
Correct. And they would just have to dedicate it over.
Yeah. And in my conversations with them, that's never been an issue whatsoever. That's all I have. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. All right. Any other question and comment? So, yeah, Ms. Casso.
Thank you, Chase. I'm very glad to hear from Jared. That's helpful because I certainly got very confused with it when we started saying that, you know, Chase, when you felt like phase 2 was the better one to do. So I appreciate the clarity. I really appreciate having our engineer who's working on this project present during this discussion. I think that has been extremely helpful this evening. Thank you so much. I'm certainly I agree with Joel. I like his idea. We've talked about that off the record for quite some time now about having an opportunity for each district to look at their older subdivisions. And I agree with Joel and Aaron. It is important that those older subdivisions, those folks have been paying drainage taxes just as long as or longer than most of us. So most of the citizens of our parish. So I'd really like to see us move forward with this discussion further and get something in an ordinance that helps clarify that for the budget, for budgeting purposes. And I'm going to support the moving forward with phase 1.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Casso. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? And I would like to, I'll make the comment as well on Mr. Monso's, professional expertise. If he feels like phase 1, there's not a huge dollar amount between phase 1 and phase 2. As long as we do not have to purchase any extra servitude, if HOA is going to donate any property we need to fix that subsurface, I will also support approving phase 1. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you, Jared. I do appreciate that. If I hear a better idea than mine, I'll unhand mine every time. So I do appreciate that. Are there any other questions, comments? I'm scrolling through the screen here. Okay. All right. Let's see. Seeing none. So we will. We have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati to approve phase 1. We have a second by Mr. Lawler. Is there any opposition to approving phase 1? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none. That motion approves. Okay. We're going to move on to. Sorry. Let me get back to my agenda here. We're going to move on to item 7B, which is approval of proposal from Hartman Engineering Incorporated for East Ascension Drainage Consulting Services in an amount not to exceed $75,000. Mr. Ron Savoy with DPW. So I hope you're comfortable there, Mr. Monson. Hang tight. We got some more questions.
Well, thanks, Chairman. And as you know, several months back, we came to you guys for help with engineering. Jared's done a great job at that. And in your packet, you saw some supporting data, some of the deliverables that he's been given on sizing pipes and different just scenarios and drainage that we need his expertise to help us with decision-making processes. So we're asking for another 75,000, but
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Robert, a second by Ms. Casso. Any questions, any comments, any objection? Hearing none, seeing none, that motion passes. And now we'll move on to,
Yeah, this is Brian. If you don't mind, Chairman, I'd like to clarify one thing that we are using the 75,000 for the day-to-day operations. That's a lot of different scenarios that flow through public works and drainage that we need his expertise on. So for instance, the item that you guys just approved before this, we may be coming back to you in February with a task order just for that item, so we don't exhaust this 75,000 from our day-to-day. So there will be a little bit more need of scoping on the item prior to this, and those special scenarios will come one-on-ones to you guys as a board for support. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, it's important. Thank you, Mr. Ron. Yeah, Mr. Robert.
If that's the case, I withdraw them. No, I'm just messing with you. I'm sorry. I'll leave my motion. I quit.
Okay. All right. With that being said, we move on to item 7C. This was the agenda item that we voted to add to the agenda. It authorizes the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District number 1 to proceed with a not to exceed $3,590,000 financing through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facility and Community Development Authority, authorizing request to issue its revenue refunding bonds. And we're all very familiar with this. We've seen it a few times. Mr. Malcolm Dugas wants to save us some money. And
good evening, everyone.
So I'll entertain a motion, or if anybody has any questions for Mr. Malcolm.
I think he has to read it, Chase.
I need the resolution.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Malcolm. I apologize.
No problem. A resolution authorizing East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District, number 1 of the Parish of Ascension, Louisiana, the district, to proceed with a not to exceed $3,590,000 financing through Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority, authorizing and ratifying the district request of the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority to issue its revenue refunding bonds, authorizing the borrowing by the district of the proceeds from the sale thereof, approving and ratifying within certain parameters the terms of the sale of the bonds, authorizing the form and execution of the loan agreement, authorizing the form of and execution of an agreement for the purchase of the bonds and ancillary financing documents, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. I'd ask the board to consider passage of this the commission passage of this resolution.
Motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Malcolm. I got a motion from Mr. Cagnolati. I got a second from Mr. Robert. Any questions, any objections? Hearing none, motion passes. And now we'll bring up item 8.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, and I got a second from Mr. Cagnolati. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.